Welcome, Seeker.
There is an ancient art known to magicians, mystics, and visionaries. An art that allows thought to take shape, intention to become form, and will to echo into reality. It is the art of the sigil. A sigil is not merely a symbol. It is a living cipher, a bridge between your conscious mind and the unseen realms that shape existence. It is the geometric language through which the soul whispers its will into the fabric of creation. From the secret seals of medieval grimoires to the silent emblems carved by shamans and temple scribes, sigils have always been the tools of those who understood a fundamental truth. The universe responds to symbols. They are the alphabet of the invisible world, capable of encoding desire, command, and transformation. But what if I told you that you could learn this language too? That within a few simple steps, you could craft your own sigil, a personal symbol infused with your intention, vibrating in resonance with your inner power. This is not about superstition or blind belief. It is about harnessing one of the most universal and ancient mechanisms of manifestation, the ability to translate will into symbol and symbol into reality. In this journey, we will uncover the forgotten origins of Sigil Magick, from the ceremonial scripts of ancient magi to the modern interpretations of chaos magicians who redefined it for a new age. We will explore its hidden philosophy, the mystery behind how symbols communicate with the subconscious, and the subtle laws that make them so potent. And finally, I'll guide you through a historical and practical method for creating your own sigil, step by step, the same process once used in temples, secret orders, and personal altars throughout history. Prepare to open a door into the unseen, for once you understand the language of symbols, you'll realize that everything in existence is a sigil, and you are its author. Long before the term sigil appeared in the grimoires of medieval magicians, the idea of sacred symbols as vessels of divine power was already ancient. In the temples of Egypt, priests inscribed protective hieroglyphs upon the walls of tombs, not merely as art, but as containers of spiritual force. Each line, curve, and symbol carried intention, carefully calibrated to guard the soul's journey beyond the veil. To the Egyptians, writing was a divine act, medu neter, the words of the gods. They believed that symbols did not just represent reality, they created it. When a priest carved a sigil-like glyph, he wasn't documenting the world, he was commanding it. Travel eastward to the plains of Mesopotamia, and we find a similar understanding. The earliest Sumerian tablets record invocations and seals used by priests to invoke specific deities. Each seal was both identification and invocation, an energetic signature through which the invisible powers could be summoned and directed. The same pattern echoes through Greece, where Pythagoras spoke of the mystical geometry underpinning all creation. That number, form, and sound were the fundamental languages of the cosmos. In that worldview, to draw a symbol was to engage with the very architecture of existence itself. And so, throughout antiquity, sacred symbols became the grammar of the divine, the pentagram of Pythagoreans, representing balance and human perfection, the Ankh of Egypt, signifying life and eternal return, the hexagram, bridging heaven and earth, a shape that would later appear in both the Star of David and alchemical emblems. When the medieval magicians of the West inherited these traditions, they refined them into systems of magical practice. In the grimoires, the Clavicula Salomonis, the Ars Goetia, the Heptameron, sigilla, or seals, were crafted for angels, spirits, and celestial intelligences. Each sigil was a symbolic equation, a spiritual address encoded in geometry and vibration. The magician would inscribe these sigils upon parchment, metals, or wax tablets, invoking forces that corresponded to the design. It was not the shape itself that held the power, but the intent and the correspondence behind it, a belief rooted in Hermetic philosophy. As above, so below. As within, so without. In the Hermetic worldview, every symbol was a mirror reflecting higher realities. By crafting a sigil with focused intent, the magician aligned the inner world of will with the outer currents of the universe. The sigil became a doorway between planes, a silent command that the cosmos could not help but answer. As time passed, the ancient arts fractured and hid themselves beneath layers of secrecy and superstition. Yet, the essence of sigil craft survived. It resurfaced in alchemical emblems, in the secret diagrams of the Rosicrucians, in the mystic seals of John Dee's Enochian system, and later, in the revival of occult studies during the late 19th and 20th centuries. But the true transformation of sigil magic came with the rise of modern esoteric thought, particularly through the work of Austin Osman Spare, the British artist and magician of the early 1900s. Spare broke from traditional ceremonial magic and redefined the sigil as a tool of personal will, stripped of religious hierarchy. He believed the human subconscious was the ultimate temple, and that sigils worked because they bypassed the rational mind and spoke directly to the deeper strata of consciousness. Through Spare's teachings, sigil creation became democratized, no longer the guarded secret of initiates, but an art accessible to anyone willing to explore their own inner symbols. He called it the alphabet of desire. And in that phrase lies the bridge between the ancient and the modern. Whether carved on temple walls or drawn in ink on a scrap of paper, a sigil remains what it has always been, the geometry of intention, the silent language through which thought becomes reality. From gods to men, from temples to notebooks, the art of sigil making endures because it expresses something eternal. The truth that creation itself begins in the imagination, and that symbols are the blueprint of manifestation. What is a sigil, truly? Most would say it's a symbol, a drawing board of desire and infused with meaning. But that's only its outer shell. At its core, a sigil is a living command to reality, a condensed spark of will, given form through the language of symbol. To understand this, we must remember an ancient truth. The universe responds not to words, but to vibration, to the energetic patterns of thought and emotion woven together. A sigil is how the magician sculpts that vibration into something tangible. Every act of creation begins with a single pulse of consciousness, an intention. That intention, when focused and shaped, becomes energy. And when energy is given a symbol, a visual anchor, it becomes matter in potential. This is the alchemy of the mind. It mirrors the Hermetic chain of manifestation. Spirit gives mind, gives energy, gives form. The sigil stands at the threshold between mind and energy, the very point where thought begins to solidify into reality. The process begins with desire. Not the fleeting desires of the ego, but the deep, resonant callings of the inner self, the kind of intention that feels alive when spoken inwardly. Ancient magicians would call this the word made flesh. Once the desire is chosen, the next step is transmutation. The magician translates that desire into symbolic language, stripping away its verbal form to reveal its pure energetic signature. Why? Because the universe does not understand sentences. It understands symbols, emotion, and vibration. By turning the desire into a sigil, we bypass the critical mind, that gatekeeper that questions, doubts, and analyzes. The symbol speaks directly to the subconscious, where true manifestation takes root. Imagine this. You wish for clarity in your path. You could say, I want direction. But the conscious mind hears, I want, and thus perpetuates wanting. Instead, you condense the essence of that intention, clarity, alignment, purpose, into a sigil. The act of creation becomes a ritual of transformation. You're no longer just asking for clarity, you're becoming it. Each curve of the sigil encodes that intention like a geometric mantra. Each line becomes a vessel for focus, emotion, and power. The secret lies in what happens next, the moment the sigil is charged. Charging is not about electricity or physical force. It is the emotional ignition of will, when the magician's consciousness fuses completely with the symbol, filling it with life. This may happen through meditation, deep breathing, ecstatic movement, or even the stillness of pure presence. When done correctly, there is a flash, not always visible, but unmistakable, where the sigil becomes something else. It becomes alive. And then, it must be forgotten. This is the paradox of Sigil Magick, one that has baffled beginners for centuries. Why create something so meaningful, only to banish it from your mind? Because the act of forgetting releases the desire from the grip of the conscious mind, allowing it to descend into the subconscious, the fertile soil where creation occurs. The ancients understood this well. In alchemy, the process was called solve et coagula, dissolve and reform. You dissolve the desire into symbol, then dissolve the symbol into the void, allowing it to reform as reality. When the process is complete, the magician does not cling, hope, or expect. They trust. They know that the sigil, now a seed within the invisible layers of existence, will unfold in its own time, just as a seed grows silently beneath the earth before it breaks through into light. That is the essence of Sigil Magick, the art of creation through surrender. The true mastery of this art lies not in the beauty of the design, but in the purity of the will behind it. For the sigil is only as powerful as the alignment of the mind and heart that birthed it. When will, emotion, and symbol converge in harmony, reality itself bends to listen. And this is where the path deepens, for there are different ways to craft sigils, each reflecting a distinct approach to shaping reality. From the traditional method of letter reduction to the modern chaos magic approach, to ancient geometric and planetary correspondences, every method tells a different story of how consciousness weaves creation. In the next section, we'll explore these methods, their hidden meanings, their ancient parallels, and how each reveals a different aspect of the mind's divine architecture. If you're drawn to understanding how these patterns unfold, how thought can truly become form, consider subscribing to Labyrinth of the Veiled and share your reflections in the comments. Each insight shared strengthens the web of seekers, rediscovering this forgotten art. By now, we've traced the philosophical anatomy of a sigil, the descent of thought into symbol, of will into form. But how does one actually craft such a symbol? And why have countless occult traditions, from Babylon to the modern magician's desk, used different, yet eerily similar methods to do so? Because at its heart, the sigil is not just a design. It is an interface between the human mind and the invisible forces that shape existence. Each method of creation is a different key, unlocking a different doorway into that great mystery. Let us begin with the classical method of letter reduction, the one most often whispered about in modern occult circles, though few truly understand its depth. You begin with a statement of intent, written as though it already exists. I am protected by divine light. I attract the knowledge I seek. The sentence is then stripped of vowels and repeating letters, leaving behind a skeleton, a cryptic arrangement of surviving characters. From these fragments, you weave a sigil, intertwining the letters, abstracting them until their linguistic form vanishes and only energy remains. This process is not random. It's a symbolic act of alchemy. You are dissolving language, the structure of the rational mind, into formless meaning. It is the written echo of the Hermetic command, transmute the visible into the invisible. Yet, the ancients didn't rely on language alone. Before alphabets ruled, geometry was the sacred tongue of gods. From the circles of the Egyptians to the star diagrams of Mesopotamia, the act of inscribing intention within geometric boundaries was considered an act of cosmic correspondence. When a circle was drawn, it symbolized the infinite. When a triangle was used, it invoked manifestation. When lines intersected, they represented the convergence of will and destiny. Each line and curve was a prayer written in the grammar of the universe. The Hermetic Magi of Alexandria refined this even further. They combined the sacred geometry of Egypt with the numerical magic of the Greeks and the angelic correspondences of Chaldea. To them, a sigil was a mathematical echo of divine order, a code through which thought could communicate with the celestial hierarchy. This is why certain symbols were not merely invented, but revealed. They emerged in trance, in dream, or through ritual, as if the universe itself handed the practitioner the shape it needed to speak. Centuries later, during the Renaissance, the art of sigil crafting merged with astrology and Kabbalah. Magicians like Cornelius Agrippa and John Dee encoded their sigils with planetary influences: Venus for love, Mars for strength, Mercury for intellect. Each planet corresponded to an archetype of force within the psyche. By aligning their sigil's geometry with the celestial movement above, they believed they were tuning their intention to the very frequencies of the cosmos. The phrase, "as above, so below," was not just poetic, it was literal. To inscribe a sigil was to construct a miniature universe. Then came the modern era, where chaos magic reinterpreted these ancient practices through the lens of psychology and energy work. To chaos magicians, the sigil is not a supernatural charm. It is a neurological technology. By converting intention into symbol, they bypass the logical filters of the brain and plant it directly into the subconscious. It's the same principle ancient mystics spoke of, only described through modern language. Where the ancients said spirit, the modern practitioner says subconscious. Where the mystic says energy, the scientist says frequency. Yet both describe the same mystery, the bridge between mind and matter. Here lies the beauty of sigil craft. It does not belong to one time, one culture, or one religion. It is the art of the human soul, expressing its creative power across history, reshaped, renamed, but always recognized by those who dared to peer behind the veil. Every tradition that discovered it spoke of the same realization. Reality responds to meaning. And a sigil is the purest form of meaning, stripped of language, free from doubt, vibrating only with will. When we craft a sigil, we do not create something new. We remember an ancient ability, the innate power of consciousness to mold the fabric of experience. It's a forgotten inheritance of our species, the signature of our divine nature. That's why the ancients guarded this knowledge. Because to shape reality consciously is to step beyond the bounds of passive existence. It is to become a participant in creation itself. But how does one live this art? How do you here and now transform this understanding into practice, crafting your own sigil that truly works? That is where theory must become ritual, where the geometry of thought becomes the fire of transformation. In the next section, we will walk step by step through the practical art of sigil creation, how to create, charge, and activate one of your own. You will learn not only the method, but the mindset behind it, the state of consciousness that turns ink into invocation. To create a sigil is to give birth to a fragment of your consciousness, a living symbol that exists between worlds. But before pen meets paper, the true work begins within. The ritual starts not with your hands, but with your intention. The ancients taught that the will must be single-pointed, like a flame without wind. So the first step is clarity. You must know what you truly desire, not what you think you should want, but what your soul calls for. Sit in stillness. Breathe deeply. Let the noise of thought settle like dust in water. Then ask yourself, what do I seek to bring into form? Let the answer rise, not from the mind, but from the silent depths beneath it. Step 1, the statement of will. Write your intention in a sentence of power, not as a wish, but as a declaration, as though the universe is already aligned with it. Instead of saying, I want to be confident, write, I am filled with unwavering confidence and clarity. This linguistic shift is crucial. It mirrors the truth that, in the realm of thought, creation already is. Your words are the echo of an event that has already occurred in the invisible. Now, condense the sentence. Remove all vowels and repeating letters. From what remains, you will forge your symbol, the condensed essence of your will. Step 2. The birth of the symbol. On a blank page, begin combining the remaining letters. Allow your intuition to lead, twist, overlap, and curve them until they no longer resemble language, but energy in motion. Don't worry about perfection. The sigil is not meant to be beautiful. It is meant to feel alive. As you draw, imagine that each line channels the force of your intention, a current of power descending from thought into matter. At this point, the symbol is born, but not yet awakened. It is a vessel, an unlit lamp awaiting the spark. Step 3. Charging the sigil. Charging is the process by which you infuse your sigil with energy, the ignition that makes it vibrate in harmony with your desire. Throughout history, mystics have used countless methods for this, through meditation, movement, sexual energy, dance, trance, or breathwork. The form is less important than the principle. You must raise your energy to a peak, a moment where the mind dissolves and awareness expands. At that climax, whether through deep stillness or ecstatic release, focus all of your energy upon the sigil. For a heartbeat, like nothing else exists. Then, release. Look away. Forget it. The forgetting is sacred. In that moment, the conscious mind steps aside, allowing the subconscious to carry the intention into the hidden mechanics of creation. Step 4. The Great Forgetting. This step is what most beginners neglect, and it's why so many sigils fail. The sigil only works when you stop grasping for it. Just as a seed cannot sprout if it's constantly unearthed, a sigil cannot manifest if your conscious mind clings to it. After charging, destroy or conceal the sigil. Burn it, bury it, or hide it where you won't see it again. Let it return to the unseen realm from which it came. The act of release tells the universe, I trust. And that trust opens the path for the energy to flow unobstructed. Step 5. Living the sigil. Once released, live as though your desire is already unfolding. Notice coincidences, alignments, small shifts in your mood or behavior. These are the early whispers of manifestation. Sigil magic is not about bending the world to your will, but aligning your inner and outer worlds until they move as one. Each sigil you create refines this alignment, strengthening your intuitive dialogue with the fabric of existence. Over time, you'll begin to sense when a symbol is alive, when it hums beneath your skin, when reality subtly rearranges itself in response. This is the dance of the magician, the living expression of the Hermetic truth. The all is mind, the universe is mental, a word of warning and wisdom. Remember, power amplifies what already resides within you. If your mind is clouded with confusion, your sigils will mirror chaos. If your will is divided, their energy will disperse. This is why the true magician cultivates purity of heart and precision of intent. Without these, even the most elegant symbol remains hollow. But with them, even the simplest mark can open doors between worlds. Each sigil you create is not just a magical act. It is a mirror revealing your own creative potential, your fears, your strength, and your hidden desires. To practice sigil magic is to study your own soul. And that, perhaps, is the most potent magic of all. In the final section, we'll conclude this journey by exploring the deeper meaning behind sigil work, why this ancient art continues to resonate today, and how, through it, we rediscover the eternal truth of our divine nature. From the first mark drawn upon a cave wall to the sacred geometry carved into ancient temples, humanity has always been compelled to create symbols. They are more than art. They are portals through which the invisible becomes visible. And when we create a sigil, we continue this timeless lineage, stepping into the role of the ancient symbol weavers who once spoke the language of gods and stars. The sigil, in truth, is a reflection of the cosmic process itself. All creation begins with intention, the seed of desire planted in the soil of consciousness. Through will, it takes shape. Through energy, it is given life. And through release, it returns to the cycle of becoming. This is the divine pattern that underlies not only magic, but existence itself. As Hermes Trismegistus wrote in the Kybalion, gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. The sigil is where those forces meet, where thought, the masculine principle, unites with imagination and emotion, the feminine principle, to give birth to form. Each time you create a sigil, you are practicing cosmic alchemy. You are not merely asking the universe for change. You are participating in its design, speaking its language, aligning your microcosm with the macrocosm. To understand sigil magic is to glimpse the truth of all Hermetic practice, that reality is malleable, that consciousness is the first cause, and that through disciplined imagination and directed will, the human being becomes a co-creator, a conscious artist painting upon the canvas of eternity. But remember, the true power of sigil work lies not in control, but in cooperation. When you surrender to the natural rhythm of manifestation, you realize that your will and the universe's will are not separate. They are two movements of the same current. This is why the ancient adepts spoke not of forcing change, but of unfolding it, as one unfolds a flower that was already destined to bloom. In this practice, you become both artist and artwork, magician and spell, creator and creation. And with every sigil, you remember a little more of what you truly are. A fragment of the infinite mind, shaping reality through symbols of light and will. So the next time you draw that silent mark upon the page, know that you are echoing the first creative act, the moment when the cosmos itself emerged from the void as a sigil of divine intention. You are not learning magic. You are remembering it. If this journey through the art of sigil creation has awakened something within you, a spark of remembrance, a curiosity to explore deeper into the hidden architecture of reality, then I invite you to join this growing circle of seekers. Subscribe to Labyrinth of the Veiled and share your thoughts below. What intention will you breathe into your next sigil? Perhaps your story will become the next chapter in this living tradition of creation, because in the end, the world itself is a sigil, and you are the one who gives it meaning.